Dive beneath the waves with us as we unveil 5 maritime mysteries that have haunted sailors and captured imaginations throughout the ages. 1. The Borealis. The Borealis is one of the more enigmatic tales in maritime history, often discussed among Norwegian sailors and fishermen. The Borealis was a Norwegian cargo ship, primarily transporting goods like timber and fish between ports in Norway, Russia, and the UK. It is believed to have been lost in the early 20th century, sometime around the 1900s, although precise records of the ship's final voyage are unclear. What makes the Borealis stand out is that it became a ghost ship, sighted drifting in Arctic waters with no one on board. On its final voyage, the Borealis was seen near Svalbard, sailing steadily through icy waters. After this sighting, the ship and its crew vanished entirely. It wasn't until months later that fishermen near Greenland reported seeing the ship again, this time unmanned, its sails battered, and its deck eerily quiet. No bodies were found, and there were no signs of struggle. The ship eventually disappeared once again, possibly claimed by the cold waters of the Arctic. Theories. Severe Arctic conditions. The most plausible theory is that the Borealis was overwhelmed by the harsh Arctic environment. The North Atlantic and Arctic seas were treacherous for even the most experienced sailors. Freezing temperatures, sudden storms, and unpredictable ice formations could have led to the crew's demise. They may have succumbed to hypothermia, or the ship could have been caught in ice, leaving the crew stranded and exposed. Ghost ship phenomenon. Over time, the Borealis became part of ghost ship folklore. The idea that it continued to drift, unmanned and seemingly unscathed, fueled stories of its supernatural nature. Some claim the ship still sails in the Arctic, cursed to remain lost forever, while others believe it may have been pulled under by icebergs, leaving no trace. Mutiny or piracy. Another theory suggests that the ship could have been taken over by pirates or mutineers. However, the lack of evidence, no signs of a struggle or stolen cargo, makes this theory less likely. If mutiny had occurred, the crew would have likely left some indication of what happened, but the ship was found intact with no clues. Legacy. The Borealis remains an unsettling mystery, with its last known sightings contributing to the lore of Arctic ghost ships. Its story endures in maritime circles, as a chilling reminder of how the unforgiving Arctic can claim lives and ships, leaving behind only questions and eerie sightings. 2. The Seabird. The Seabird, or Seabird of Newport, was a mid-18th century American schooner that became the subject of one of America's earliest maritime mysteries. In 1750, the ship was found grounded on Easton's Beach, Newport, Rhode Island, with no crew on board. What made the discovery so baffling was that the ship appeared to be in perfect condition. Its sails were furled, food was laid out in the galley, and there was no sign of damage or struggle. Even more perplexing was the fact that the lifeboat remained attached to the ship, making it unclear how the crew could have disappeared without a trace. This bizarre discovery led to much speculation and numerous theories about what might have happened to the crew. The Seabird soon became part of American maritime folklore, and its story continues to intrigue historians and maritime enthusiasts to this day. Theories. Crew overboard incident. One popular theory is that the crew was swept overboard by a sudden storm or rogue wave. The Seabird was found near the shoreline, so it's possible that the crew was trying to anchor or secure the ship when they were caught by an unexpected wave. This could explain why the ship was found so close to shore with everything else in order. Piracy or foul play. Some speculate that pirates or another ship might have boarded the Seabird and forced the crew overboard. However, the lack of visible damage to the ship and the fact that no valuables appeared to have been stolen make this theory less convincing. Supernatural theories. Given the mysterious circumstances, some have suggested that the crew's disappearance might have had a supernatural cause. Ghost ship legends were common in the 18th century, and the Seabird quickly became part of this folklore. Some believe the ship was cursed or that the crew fell victim to a paranormal event. Legacy. The Seabird story endures as one of the earliest ghost ship legends in American history. Its abandoned state and the complete disappearance of its crew have led to countless theories, but no concrete answers. It remains a symbol of the unpredictable and mysterious nature of the sea. 3. The Perth. The CSS Perth was a Confederate blockade runner, part of a fleet of ships used to smuggle goods through the Union Navy's blockade during the American Civil War. Blockade runners like the Perth were vital to the Confederate war effort, often carrying supplies like weapons, medicine, and food from the Caribbean or Europe to southern ports. In 1864, the Perth embarked on a routine mission from Nassau, Bahamas, bound for Charleston, South Carolina. It was carrying a cargo of critical war supplies, but it never arrived at its destination. The ship simply vanished, with no wreckage, distress signals, or survivors ever found. Despite Confederate efforts to locate the vessel, its fate remains one of the many unsolved mysteries of the Civil War. Theories. Union naval attack. The most straightforward explanation is that the Perth was intercepted and sunk by a Union warship. Union naval forces were highly effective at capturing or destroying Confederate blockade runners. If the Perth was attacked, it may have been sunk so quickly that there was no time for the crew to send a distress signal. Severe storm. Another theory suggests that the Perth may have encountered a storm and been lost at sea. The waters off the Atlantic coast were notorious for sudden and violent storms, especially during hurricane season. The Perth could have been overwhelmed by rough seas, leaving no trace behind. Mutiny or sabotage. Some historians have speculated that there may have been sabotage or a mutiny on board. Union sympathizers or spies may have been aboard the ship, or the crew could have turned on their officers. However, this theory is less likely due to the high stakes and military discipline typically enforced on Confederate blockade runners. Legacy. The disappearance of the Perth is a reminder of the high risks Confederate blockade runners faced during the Civil War. The ship's loss was a blow to the Confederate supply chain, and its story continues to intrigue historians who study the naval aspects of the war. The mystery surrounding the Perth endures as one of the many unsolved disappearances from that turbulent period. 4. The Frigate Somerset. The HMS Somerset was a British warship that played a significant role in the American Revolutionary War. Launched in 1748, the Somerset was part of the Royal Navy's fleet stationed in North America. It was involved in several major battles, including the Siege of Boston and the Battle of Bunker Hill, and was tasked with enforcing British control over the colonies by blockading ports and patrolling the coast. In 1778, the Somerset met its end when it was caught in a violent storm while patrolling the waters off Cape Cod. The ship was driven onto the notorious sandbars of Provincetown, Massachusetts, where it became stranded. The crew abandoned the ship, and American forces quickly salvaged what they could. The ship's remains were eventually buried by shifting sands and remained hidden for centuries. Theories. Navigational challenges. The waters off Cape Cod were particularly treacherous due to shifting sandbars and strong tides. Even experienced captains struggled to navigate the area, especially in poor weather conditions. It's likely that the Somerset's crew miscalculated their position during the storm, leading to the ship running aground. Divine retribution. Many American colonists saw the wreck of the Somerset as divine retribution for the ship's role in enforcing British control over the colonies. The ship had been involved in several blockades and military actions that had harmed American interests, and its wreck was seen as a fitting end to a hated symbol of British power. Ghost ship legends. The wreck of the Somerset has given rise to numerous ghost ship legends in New England. Locals claim to have seen the ship's ghostly outlines sailing near the spot where it was wrecked, with the spirits of its British crew still aboard. Legacy. The wreck of HMS Somerset is one of the most famous maritime incidents of the American Revolutionary War. Its remains were uncovered in 1973 after a storm, and the site is now a protected historical landmark. The Somerset is remembered as both a symbol of British naval power and a tragic reminder of the dangers of maritime warfare. 5. The Truculent. HMS Truculent was a T-class British submarine that met with disaster just a few years after World War II. Launched in 1942, the Truculent was designed for combat in deep waters and was heavily involved in naval operations during the war. Following the war, it was repurposed for peacetime duties, including training exercises and patrols. On the night of January 12, 1950, Truculent was conducting a routine training exercise in the Thames estuary, off the coast of England. Despite the peacetime conditions, disaster struck when the submarine collided with the Swedish oil tanker Divina. The collision occurred in thick fog, making visibility extremely poor. The Truculent sustained critical damage, and water began flooding into the submarine. Within minutes, the vessel sank to the bottom of the estuary, trapping many of the crew inside. Though some of the crew managed to escape the submarine initially, they faced further difficulties in the freezing waters of the Thames. Tragically, 64 men perished in the disaster, many of them due to hypothermia after escaping the wreck. Only a few survivors lived to tell the tale. Theories. Navigational error. The official inquiry into the incident concluded that poor visibility and a navigational error were the primary causes of the collision. Both the Truculent and the Divina had been using their lights, but due to the fog, the tanker's lights were mistaken for shore lights, leading to the fatal miscalculation. This resulted in the submarine surfacing directly in front of the tanker. Design flaws. Another theory suggests that the post-war modifications to the Truculent may have compromised its structural integrity. T-class submarines had been retrofitted after the war, and some speculated that these changes made the vessel more vulnerable to collisions or reduce the speed at which it could surface or maneuver in emergencies. Inadequate emergency procedures. The tragedy of the Truculent highlighted potential flaws in emergency procedures for submarines. After the collision, many crew members managed to escape the submarine but succumbed to the freezing waters of the Thames before rescuers could reach them. Some naval experts argued that better survival training or equipment might have saved more lives. Legacy. The sinking of HMS Truculent remains one of the most tragic post-war accidents in British naval history. The disaster led to reforms in submarine safety protocols, including improvements in emergency escape procedures and better navigation systems for submarines operating in busy or hazardous waters. To this day, the Truculent is remembered as a sobering reminder of the dangers that submariners face, even in peacetime. These 5 vessels, the Borealis, Seabird, Perth, Somerset, and Truculent, each carry their own mysterious and tragic legacies. Whether lost to the unforgiving Arctic, abandoned by vanished crews, or wrecked in the fog of war or peacetime, they all serve as haunting reminders of the dangers of the sea and the enduring mysteries of maritime history. Thank you for joining us on this journey through some of history's most compelling maritime mysteries. If you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to stay updated on more fascinating stories from the past. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.